The only time we really want to do that is maybe the public comment opportunity, because it's more handicap accessible, I would think.
Okay.
It might be more space. Right now, if we're only going to have 5 or 10 people show up at a meeting, this is fine. But I would say for public comment, and that would be on a different evening than our regular meeting. So we should probably decide what other evenings are good for meetings if we're going to have for public comment.
Well, we start
You're
doing
good.
paperwork and stuff, and we got a lot of stuff around, we might be a little pressed for room. Maybe a bigger table would be an advantage.
Or more tables.
Or more tables. There's 2 big conference tables down there.
Well, we can change things as we go along anyway.
And we're also, the judge can't, if he has an arraignment, he can't do it here.
Right.
He's, can go downstairs in the village courtroom,
Right.
but, so we are inconveniencing him. There isn't.
Well, I guess we'll put it up to a vote. Who wants to meet at the fire department?
Is there
Instead
another
of
place to meet at too, or no? Or is that the only option? Community center?
The community center doesn't have a big meeting room.
Yeah, we just need the table so we can spread out.
It might be nice it might be nice to have an opportunity to project something if you've got
They have a smart board and everything down there, so.
at the firehouse, not at the community center.
No, the community center doesn't have a room this big. This is as big as this is bigger than any room they have down there, but except for the gymnasiums. So I would say that the fire department would probably be the better place if that's not a problem. And
That wouldn't be a problem. And I think that
As long as
they
they
don't
don't have
have any
meetings.
readings on Thursday nights.
It's just the first Thursday of the month.
First Thursday.
I think they've switched those because so many of them are going to school, the firemen are going to school on Thursday
I
nights.
mean, I don't mind this year until we get, it's just, you know, we really have a lot of stuff.
Well,
next week might be next week might be it.
Go to the
So-
firehouse then, because it's a little more room. Let's do the firehouse.
Right. So I have a motion to
I usually.
Firehouse.
second. Jim, all in favor? So our meetings will be 6:30 at the firehouse instead of here. And that, they have a little bit more space there for the public comment.
We're starting next meeting, right?
Next Thursday will be there.
Who will contact them? You do that?
yeah.
Now, the next thing we have to do is set up a night for our public comment. And if,
Can I ask what the public comment will be? What is it going to be? Because we don't have a plan
well,
or
we're going to be
anything to
doing,
show them.
we're just going to be introducing ourselves. We will show them basically what our agenda is tonight, what the committees are, who the subcommittees are, and who's in charge of each subcommittee, and just let them know that we are going to start requesting information for the data to go into these, for the subcommittees to form a plan. And right now, we don't, no, we're just starting, so we don't have a lot of,
Plus it's a time to tell them where the website,
right.
check the websites, to check whatever media we're going to use.
And the press will be putting that in there.
And again, that it's a vehicle, we're going to need to show you the last page. The last page is contact the committee, and this is, I think, its greatest value. Someone could literally email a note, and it's a direct contact to, it would actually come to MRB Group. I would make sure that you guys have it, either by forward, by email to you. We'll establish a protocol that works for you. And we'll also keep a hard copy for documentation for the record. But this is a vehicle by which people can get comments, questions, thoughts, suggestions directly to you. So that's, I think, as Connie mentioned earlier, one of the greatest benefits of the informational meeting is to let the public know what role they can play in this process, get them interested, and so that they're following the process, and invite their commentary. explain that, you're not gonna have the public comment at your meetings, not because you don't wanna hear it, but because you're gonna have a very aggressive timeline here, and you wanna make sure that everything gets addressed at the proper time and place, as you said earlier. That's a great way of putting it.
Will we be able to link that to our town and village website?
Yes, yep, it's, right now, it's actually, called lyonsdissolution.org. lyonsdissolution.org. So, you can link directly to it from your websites.
I would suggest that we have a similar form at the village offices and at the town offices for people that either aren't comfortable with using email or don't have access to it, so that they can also provide comment.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. Yep, a paper version of this that's
If
available
we
on
have
each
some
desk.
forms, at the front counter, and maybe a little mailbox that we can draft in, then nobody has to feel left out.
The other thing is, Jim said, so people don't have access to computers, we probably should have a couple of copies of the minutes at the village office, so that if someone wants to come in and read the minutes, I'm not saying they can pick it up and take it, you don't want to be making 300 copies, but
But if it goes on the website, if it's published to the website, it's easy.
well, but if
just to
people don't, right, you
print it
just print it out, right.
set it.
And as the meeting minutes become available, they would show up right there in terms of committee.
You'll forward us
process
a copy of
progress.
that?
Pardon me?
Can you forward a copy of that form or whatever to the town and village?
Sure. Yeah, actually, I think what we'll do is if it's printed, that'll look pretty small, so we'll make a bigger version and we'll get it emailed to you.
Thank you.
Now, if I were to go online tonight, would I find it? It's there.
It is actually there right now. It hasn't been publicized, so nobody knows it's there. So it's an opportunity, if any of you are uncomfortable with your mobile phone, and chief, you might be, didn't occur to me, but
It's
not
wide
sure.
open, that's what it's there for.
Okay, well, that's great. That being the case, once hopefully it goes out in the press and people start utilizing it.
So you could click on that right now, you could go home and put that in your computer and that's gonna pop up.
Okay.
Well, I guess okay, so we need a date for the public information meeting. What is, today's March 7th. What other evening is good for people, for the members of the board?
Sergey, could we have it the same night, only like maybe an hour earlier or a half hour?
Well, I guess the first one would, I don't know how long the comment section's gonna last. We could try that and then cut it off, depending on how many people are there. But it's gonna be I think the first meeting will be very short. And, because we really don't have a lot of information to hand out. So if you wanna do that, all right, how about 2 weeks from tonight then?
21st?
The 21st of March, we'll have our public information meeting.
At 6 o'clock then? Or is that what we're doing, backing it up a little bit?
And how we talk.
Well, I was
Still
thinking,
have it at 6:30
you have
and
six,
always
you have the
7:30.
public at 6 to 6:30, and then we can have our meeting at 6:30.
How does that sound to everybody? Do you wanna try to limit? Do you think we can get all the information out we need to get out in half an hour?
No. Oh, that's good.
I think that would be.
Well, the first one should be, there's nothing we
Well-
wanted to talk about yet.
Well,
Well, don't forget.
we're
Actually,
introducing all of us.
actually, it'll be.
We're gonna be telling everybody what the subcommittees are and who the chairman of each one is.
And we actually have 8 items on this suggested agenda, which is, beyond introducing the committee, talking about roles and responsibilities, what the public information, what the public involvement would be, introducing the website, talking about communication, what the protocol will be for communication. Those things would all, I think half an hour especially if you're incorporating in their public comment. I think that's too optimistic, in terms of a short time frame. I think you should at least set aside an hour.
Can
Do
we
you have any thoughts, Mike? I mean, is that?
Can we do that another?
Because I think if you do have public comments, you don't want to cut them.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think a half hour.
Sorry, our half
yeah.
hour or our hour, whatever's up, you don't want to do that. You want to give everyone their opportunity.
Well, we can also limit the comments to 3 minutes per person, because I don't want to be lectured,
Right.
and so I think 3 minutes per person would be.
Let me ask you this, could people like be put on the agenda? Who wants to, so we know actually who's filling in?
Well, it's the first public information meeting, we really don't.
I mean, the first one, you can't.
We really don't know
later on
who's
down the
coming.
road.
Yeah, I don't know, I think if it's a public information meeting, you have to open it up for everyone. Because if someone doesn't get their name in for the agenda, that defeats the purpose of having a public
So you get 10,
information.
12 people out there like,
So, 3 minutes apiece. Starts strong, you got 3 minutes. Takes 2 minutes, thank you. But,
They don't do it in the time frame, then fill out the form, then we'll look at it.
right,
It's not like I don't think any of us want to neglect anybody.
right.
no, absolutely.
But,
Definitely want to hear them, but if it's,
but if you limit people to 3 minutes, they'll know that they have to be concise, and their comments have to be to the point and not rambling.
Jen brings up a good point that if they have more, it would not be unreasonable to expect that somebody's going to want to come in and present data or considerations or whatever. They can do that by the vehicle of the suggestion form.
And not only
see
that,
everybody and everybody gets it.
plus if it's a specific item, they can talk to the subcommittee, when they're meeting too. So, if you want to open up your subcommittee meetings to the public, if someone wants to make a recommendation and you feel that it's applicable, every subcommittee has they're wide open. There's not going to be a lot of constraints.
I'm very comfortable with that submission form, both online and an equivalent handwritten form.
Right.
Because not only does it give everybody the opportunity to be as expansive as they want to be, but it also provides documentation that you receive these things.
Right. Okay,
So when are we going to do it?
let's go do 6 to 7, and March 21st will be the public information meeting
At the firehouse?
at the firehouse.
And then our meeting will be after that.
Then our meeting will be after that, after a 15-minute break or whatever.
And how are we going to publicize that?
Well, what is,
What's
Well,
the
I'm
next
sure
village
that-
board meeting?
I'm sure the Finger Lakes Times, we can send out press releases. Do you send out press releases on a regular basis, or?
I'll be here at every meeting, so.
Okay.
Sergi, I have a vehicle to put out press releases, so I'd be willing to do that for the committee,
All right.
with your approval of the
Sure.
press release.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
You can send out to all the.
User site.
Yeah, user site.
That's the best one.
And,
I catch crooks with the users.
I hate to start putting it into the penny saver and paying for legal ads, because we don't have a budget.
I think you'll find that, especially by use of my press release vehicle, that we would get good response from
Right.
the publications that would be pertinent here. So
Is the two boards going to have a meeting before that date?
We don't.
the village board has a meeting on
You could, next week would be on your agenda to be announced.
We'll put it on our website.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll.
And we'll certainly put it on the Lyons Dissolution website as well.
Okay, so now we're gonna go to data collection.
Yeah, data collection. At this point, that would be the next step. The focus would be on data collection. Fiscal data is already being collected. Connie's been in contact with the village staff, been coordinating with the town staff She arranged for those copies of the budget for you to review tonight. And she's meeting with Diane next week. It's
Got a
on,
call for-
it's
yep,
on
yeah.
schedule?
Yep,
Okay.
I got a call and set that up, and I've been meeting with Denise and, with Karen, so it's
It's
starting,
taking place, okay.
or the fiscal piece is
So
starting.
meanwhile, while MRB Group is going to focus on the fiscal piece, the committee should be starting the process of gathering data about services and how services are being delivered. And that would be services provided by both the village and the town. And that would be done through the process of conducting interviews that are scheduled by the corresponding subcommittees. And the focus of those interviews should be, developing an understanding of the organization and the structure of the department that provides the service, understanding the functions of the department, and literally looking at every delivery of service within that department. So for each service, who provides the service among the department staff, how the service is delivered, what the frequency of the service is. You don't all have to write all this down because we're going to actually give you some guidelines that we think would be really, really helpful to you. But the information that you're going to want to gather, the frequency of the service, requirements involved in the service. Does it require special equipment? Does it require special credentials? Basically, the bottom line is to develop the understanding of the department and its services and the costs of providing those services by analyzing literally the man hours and the cost of the man hours involved in the delivery of the service. And if that's done on the village side and the town side, then once that information is gathered, when you get to the next stage, it's going to be envisioning what services might look like post-dissolution. In other words, it allows you to marry up, the related service areas and how they can be combined in the most efficient way. So the data gathering, we want to assist in the data collection, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to give you a little sample here. We're going to provide you with guides that look something like this. You'd literally be able to, as a subcommittee, schedule an interview, and ideally it should be at a time when everyone can be present. Once the interview with that department head is scheduled, providing them perhaps a day or two in advance what it is you're going to be talking about, and this providing them the form and saying these are the things we're going to focus on when we talk with you. And the form is not meant to restrict your discussion. It's not meant to, in any way limit what you talk about. It's just meant to serve as a guide. These are the focus areas for a discussion. But by providing it in advance, you give that department head the opportunity to kind of get into the mindset of, oh, these are the things we're going to be talking about. This one, for instance, would be general questions about the department. The department supervisor, how big the department is. What are the different positions in the department? Then perhaps, and we're still improving this form, but then a description of each of the services that department provides. And maybe some sort of an assessment, and we were talking earlier about maybe even tightening up some of this language and making it clearer for the person who's working with the form. But an evaluation of whether or not this is a standard service, whether it's a service that is maybe not a basic service, but something that's valued by the community. So it just gets the department head thinking about what services are provided, gives you a guide for walking through service by service what's provided. For each of the services that is identified by a department head, we would like to see a corresponding form, if you will, or worksheet that walks you through the process of identifying all of the individual factors associated with delivery of that service. That, and a subsequent sheet, that's where you get into who delivers the service, how it's delivered, how frequent it's delivered, frequently. Anyway, I just wanted you to see kind of a sample. This is the degree to which we want to help guide this process, so you're not floundering and wondering what information you should be gathering. We'll help you focus on the critical information that's going to help you with the building blocks, if you will, for how to marry up services when you're envisioning the post-dissolution.
So if we want to request information, we ask you?
We will work with the subcommittees to get you these forms so that you have some guidance in terms of setting up your interviews.
No, you do the interview.
No, I'm saying, like, if I wanted to request the department budget, each department does their own budget, okay? Then it goes into the major budget, okay? So I mean, people that are looking at a budget, they don't have the breakdown like the highway, the water department, the police department, the fire department, what that department actually, I mean, we used to get them, we got, like our ambulance department would give us their budget, and we'd put it in our budget. So you actually knew what contractual expenses, which department it was going to, and who would work there.
Connie's going to walk through,
Okay.
At the end of this meeting, Connie's going to walk through what she calls a budget primer, just to kind of give you a chance to look at the budget that is going to end up being the basis of the budget crosswalk that is built to do the fiscal analysis. These forms are meant to give you building blocks looking at services and kind of from the bottom up what the cost of services are just by calculating it takes this many man hours, it takes this many, with this frequency, and so you can kind of look at the cost from the bottom up using this method, and then look at it from the top down, looking at the budgets for both the village and the town. So we're actually going to be we're conducting the fiscal analysis from the top down. You guys are going to be building the data for the analysis from the bottom up. And then we'll see how those jive.
So we're going to see real numbers? Because a budget number is a budget number, but let's take, for instance, take the ambulance, for instance. We budgeted $10,000 to buy drugs. I want to know the real number. Even though we budgeted 10, we're spending 8,500. So we're going to have that information?
We're going to be working off the budget we've actually had this conversation several times in the last few days, because I understand what you're asking, because I've been asking the same question. We're going to be working off the budget for 2013
13 on the town
for the
side,
town.
and 2012-13, you have to work with the current budget. What we're looking at, and let me just back up. For this purpose, this is your baseline. You're going to be really gathering, not necessarily what that budget piece looked like. You're going to see the fiscal collection that MRB is going to be doing and showing you town budget, village budget, that type of thing. But for this purpose, to get your baseline, to be even able to make the next step of what those service options might look like when the village is dissolved, you need to get a baseline of exactly what is being offered and done on a daily basis by the town and the village, current status right here, right now. So the budget piece will come, and you'll see a lot of that fiscal data, and you certainly are welcome to look at the town and the village budgets, and Brian, you're very familiar with the town. And you do have actual, if you're looking for actual to budget figures, that's a different scenario.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know on the village side, they do it monthly, and if you do that, you'll be able to see by your budget code exactly what you have spent to the budget. But for this purpose, you're going to want to start with what is each department, what is their function, what services are being offered by them and done, and it will end up being a cost, but right now, how many staff, what is their classification, and then we're going to work with the salary. So ultimately, you'll have that information of what each of those what is snow removal cost, what is X cost, what is, whatever the street department's doing, whatever, reading the meters, what is that gonna cost? But you need that baseline first. That makes sense?
Somewhat.
One of the things Connie and I talked about is, and I think it's going to be useful information for you folks, looking at not just the current budget, but also the previous year, and possibly even the year before that, so that we can understand if there is a variance between what's budgeted and what's expended. If there's a pattern, that'll be telling, and that'll be good information to have. But we've got to work off of budgets in order to be doing a fair comparison of, because it's going to be a projected budget for combined entities.
But in the long run, we will have a breakdown very part of it, right?
Yeah. In fact, the budgets, you all have copies of both the village and the town budget at this point. Maybe the next thing to do is for you to do that budget crosswalk. Mike, do you have any thoughts you want to add to the conversation? Don't hesitate to interject.
Some of you are more familiar than others with the budgeting process, so some of this is going to seem, they're all the same. I just want to make sure we have enough. If you come from the world of municipal operations or on the finance side or developed a budget, try not to yawn, it'll hurt my feelings. But I wanted to give you some definitions right off the bat because, silly as it may sound, there are a lot of times you ask somebody what revenue is or appropriations, and there's a different meaning in municipal finances. So you'll just see we just put down, something as simple as a budget, financial document used to project future income and expenses, much like you do at home, only at a much more complex level.
Not only is this information good for you, but you will have people asking you what it is you're looking at, what it is, they hear terms, what do these terms mean? So some of this might be helpful when you're explaining to other people what you're looking at.
And then when you're looking at the budget, the revenue is any income, proceeds, earnings. Simple as that. The appropriations are the public funds set aside for a specific purpose, and in layman's terms, it's your expenses. When you budget, you're saying that this is what you plan on expending over a period of a year. The general fund is used to account for all assets and liabilities except those assigned to other purposes. It's typically associated with general governmental operations and services and directly impacts your tax levy and rate for property taxes. Water fund is, just as it sounds, it's used to account for all assets and liabilities for the water operations. And a lot of residents do not know it does not affect your property tax rate. It is all based on benefiting users pay for that water fund. So if you're getting public water and you're getting a water bill, built into that rate is the operation and maintenance. And the same with the sewer. If you have sewer, public sewer at your home, then again, that sewer fund is used to account for all assets and liabilities. And your sewer rate that typically will go with the water and sewer bill that you get will pay for all of that. It does not affect property tax.
But it is possible for them to take money out of the general budget for sewer and water, as long as they put it back.
Yes.
So we need to know that for the water and sewer committee, if that's ever been done, or is being done.
We would know because it would show up on the.
It'll show up.
Yeah.
Debt service, a series of payments of interest and principal required on a debt over a period of time. Within the budget, you will see on the village, and if the town had any debt service, exactly what the payment would be. For example, if they had a fire truck, if they had a water plant improvement, you would see it under the particular code, and you would see what that payment is for the year, what is left on the obligation. A lot of times, I know in the village budget, they will put what year it will be completed, an interest rate on the bond, and its debt service, and you'll see that by fund. on each of the budgets. And then townwide, and again, this is pretty much the town budget. You'll notice the townwide covering the entire town, which includes the village. It is general fund A account in your budget. Town outside the village, covering only the town parcels outside the village limits, and it's the general fund B. Village, obviously only within the village limits, and that would be mainly your village budget. Reserve accounts, funds legally set aside for specific future use. You'll see discussion, you'll see it in the budgets and sometimes the financial documents. Fire truck reserve account. They can have a police car reserve account, water fund reserve account. Maybe some of the villages will set aside money on a yearly basis for any type of emergency that they may need that involves water operations. The same on sewer. If it is specifically set up for that specific account, it is called a reserve account, and that money can only be used for that purpose. Unreserved fund balance. You hear a lot of people talking about it at the end of the year. Many municipalities have an unreserved fund balance. They're funds that are not set aside for specific use and can be used for purposes within that specific fund. If it's an A general fund, at the end of the year you may see a surplus. It's called unreserved fund balance. It will carry over to the next year, or if you have a deficit at the end of the year, that fund will be used to supplement that. District, used in budgeting to asset properties that receive a service specific to a geographic location or have responsibility for a debt that is not the responsibility of the entire population of the municipality, just those residing in such districts are referred to as benefited users. You might have a lighting district, you might have a fire district that specifically will pay, you might have a sewer district that just those benefiting people are required to pay the debt back on that. And then again, A fund, B fund, and this is in your town budget. We talked about A and B. DA fund is used in the town budget to account for assets and liabilities for highway operations and services that benefit all town residents. DB fund is specifically that benefit town residents outside of the village boundaries. Fiscal period, the village's fiscal year is June 1st through May 31st of any given year. The town's fiscal year is based on the calendar year, January 1 through December 31. Currently, the village's current budget is 2012-13. That will end 31 May of this year. They are now in the process of formulating their budget for this coming 2013-2014 year. While the town current budget is 2013, you now have a copy of each. So you should have both budgets. The annual budget process, I'm going to show you a sheet on the next page of property tax per thousand. And then the expenses and revenues, which we talked very briefly. Within the governmental accounting, it makes it very difficult to pinpoint revenues back to a specific department in most instances. The same on the expenditure side. For example, the police department, you're in general fund, you have an A code, you're within A 3120. It would be the budget code. And that is for all the expenses, personal services, contractual services. However, that will not show New York State Police retirement, will not show health insurance. Those are under separate governmental codes. Can they be put to where you know exactly what a department will cost on a yearly basis? Absolutely. But you're not going to see it that cleanly within the budget process. And then just on the next page, I know a lot of you already know this, but this is a great sheet to have when you're talking to residents. Just will explain exactly how the property tax rate is arrived at.
You'd be amazed at how many times I've had to explain this to people.
Oh my goodness, I know it.
And this ends up being very helpful.
So you have the water fund, the sewer fund, and the general fund. These are the funds typically maintained by municipalities. Water and sewer funds are sustained by benefiting users, not taxes. Only the general fund affects taxes. And you will tell people this 50 times and they will come back to say that they're positive the water fund affects their property taxes, and it does not. Revenue sources, you have state aid, you have fees and other types of non-tax revenue, and it'll come up with a total. If you have court fees, if people pay for a dog license, they pay any type of a permit, they have public works fees, maybe they don't cut their grass, whatever it is, that would be part of the non-tax revenue. Then based on that appropriation for the year, whatever that non-tax revenue does not cover is going to become your tax levy of that amount of money that you're going to have to make up in property taxes. And then your taxable value, and typically this is derived from the county, we'll send it to a clerk treasurer, to a bookkeeper over on the town side to tell you exactly what your assessed value is for that particular year, so you have that base to start doing the calculation to determine what your tax rate is going to be. And then your tax levy, the tax rate is the tax levy amount divided by the total assessed value. This provides the amount to be collected for every dollar of assessed value. Comes up with a rate per thousand. And then what your taxes will be, its calculation is based on people's assessments. If their assessment is $85,000, for example, and they have a special exemption of $10,000, might be a veteran, might be whatever it's for, their total assessment is $75,000, and then it's strictly just a calculation. Now, forgive me if a lot of you already know this, but it's good information to have, and when you're looking at the budget, you can kind of follow along how the town and the village both derived at what that current tax rate is. Question?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you look at the village budget, everything is lump sum. And for me, with the highway and everything, you have contractual expenses. That should be broken down. The individual.
In the street department, for instance,
What makes that figure up?
paving and how much gravel, how much coal patch, hot patch. Yeah, we have that broken down
Yeah,
more
because
than
that's what the highway guy gives you to make the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the stuff.
Yeah, and same with
I-
police, fire, every department.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah,
doing.
and that is available.
Anything else? As we go along, you'll see a lot, we're doing that fiscal collection right now of the current operations and what the budgets and what it looks like. And then as we go through the next step, the service options, you'll get more deeply involved in the fiscal collection piece and the dollars. Right now, we thought it best just to start with 3 and 4 different steps, otherwise it becomes so overwhelming if you try to look at all 22 all at one time.
I have a question about the fire department. Right now, we don't have a fire district, and years ago, we tried to implement one, and it fell short. I was wondering is that up to the commissioners of the committee to maybe look into the fire district, or is it something you guys would do? And bring to us like the new laws and regulations, because if these guys are sitting down number crunching, trying to figure out what the budget should be for the fire department, and in lieu of the fire district might save us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is it something you should do, or should we do it?
Part of the job of the committee is to look at all services post-dissolution. So post-dissolution, meaning in the absence of the village, then the town would be responsible for providing services. The town can't be in the fire business,
Right.
so that leaves only a couple of options in terms of how fire protection is provided. It would be the job of the committee to look at those options and do the fiscal analysis and then make a decision about what the recommendation is going to be. And literally, it's gonna be the same process for every single service that's provided. So it's the responsibility of the committee to make that part of the plan, but it's gonna require looking at those different options and costing it out, and then coming to a determination about what you wanna include in the plan.
So I think the fire district should be looked at.
Yep, yeah.
By that, you mean the creation of a different corporate entity, an independent fire district?
Well, if the village does not be dissolved with this dissolution committee and everything, it should have to be determined. Right now, we have a village and we subcontract the expense to the town. And like you said, the town is not allowed to have a fire department. So somehow you have to form a district.
In the
corporate.
Some kind of corporation, corporate through the fire department. And then that will allow us maybe to go into the county and get some revenue from the county because all their buildings are in our fire district. And if they do form a district, I mean, that would be a big savings for our community, town and village as a whole.
It's $55 million worth of assessment on the buildings in Lyons. So that would do a lot for
I didn't want to jump the gun and go, cart from the horse.
Well,
you did say
so
something
these
about
are the
fire district,
questions.
so I just wanted to bring
These
it
are
up.
the questions that you need to ask so we know what direction to go to, but that's something the subcommittee will be working with County Land with. And are you available, what is your availability?
We're available, although I should take this opportunity to point out, because you picked Thursday nights for meetings, there are a couple of obligations that are already on our schedules that can't be rearranged. But for the most part, we'll plan out with you when would be critical times, when you would want us at the meetings, for instance, the public information meetings, we're assuming that you would want us to be there,
Right.
but we need to kind of coordinate with you in terms of the role. You
How
seem to
about
be
the
very.
I'm more concerned with subcommittees that need direction from you.
Yeah, we provided our contact information and.
So you're available
we would-
basically business hours?
Yep.
And
Yep.
except for the Thursday nights, you'll be here.
Yep.
Right.
And again, we'll coordinate the Thursday nights when you think our presence would be helpful.
Well, you're gonna have to let us know when
As
you're not
opposed to,
available.
as opposed to routine.
Obviously, we'll be working around your schedule if you're not available. So.
I think that, it's probably not gonna be necessary for us to be here weekly. If it's very clear what the agenda is and, what you are, tasked with doing, we wanna be supportive, but, we'll coordinate closely with you to make sure that, we're here when you need us.
We want you here all the time. All right.
Is there something that we haven't touched on? We've talked about the fiscal considerations and services, but inventory. I think we need to task the department heads within the village to provide a hard inventory to us. So that we can
That's
see
both
what
the
we're
town
doing.
and the village will be giving us inventories of trucks and equipment.
That should be on the fire, the two, they put the fire trucks on there.
Everything.
That's part of the village, so.
There should be a listing of everything.
Could we ask the mayor to ask for that now? So
Well, you have already started that, right?
The equipment,
Yes, the equipment, each department head knows what equipment they have.
Well, I did an
The major
inventory of the
vehicles.
police department, and let me tell you, it took a while. So I
Yeah.
think we have to get on the ground
Okay.
floor to get people to
Then
do
I
it.
guess both in the town and village, because if we're gonna recommend, obviously we're gonna be combining highway departments and other items, we need to know if there's an overlap of equipment, and, so we need that for the town also.
There's considerations as to the value too, and how we're
Correct.
going to
Right.
compensate the village versus debt on that. So I think we need to have it,
Right.
on paper up front.
Well, they're just gonna turn everything over to the town and they're responsible for all their debt, so.
Well, now
Kidding.
we only have to
Kidding.
meet every other Thursday.
Oh, that was the first public meeting.
We got the right guy.
So, okay, so we'll, I guess no off the cuff kidding around is appropriate.
I don't know.
So, okay,
Did have a joint once in a while.
right. So, all right. I guess that pretty much covered the agenda as far as, now the subcommittees have to, do you want to determine tonight when you're going to start meeting? Because if we're going to be meeting next Monday as a committee, the subs have to,
Next Thursday.
right, that's next Thursday, the committee, but the subcommittees should meet prior to that. And it might be a good time to, I know a lot of you work, so you're gonna have to, but the problem is that we're gonna be getting information from the village and town employees that ask me during the day, so you're gonna have to schedule time during the day when you're available. And just let me know.
Bart, I should point out, just for the record, next Thursday, Connie and I have a pre-scheduled presentation that we have to give, and there's no moving that day. That's
All right, that's fine.
a city council presentation.
Well,
So
this would be a good time to see how we do without you,
okay,
and we'll find out how much we need you. So, but, if everybody could let me know, if the committee chairs could, let me know tomorrow. And, if you can figure it out now, that's fine. But if you wanna meet with the other members of on the committee,
I mean, I could do the legwork. I mean, I could go see Jake, and I could go through the highway, and I could go see these people and start gathering information. And then the three of us get together.
but that's the thing, you have to coordinate with the other members on the subcommittee.
if you could let us know as well, then we can help you with those first.
We can, if you want to make time.
It might be appropriate when we close this meeting to take a couple minutes to, hey, what's your schedule?
Right, I think that'd be a good idea,
Well,
because
I'll
we
see.
do have to, we have to get things started, is all right. You know, and there is a short 4 months here, so, that we're trying to get things done. So, we've already wasted 2 months. No, but there are 2 months of time that have elapsed, so we're not going to do it, so.
Would it be a problem if we started meetings at 6:30, our workshops, so we came in a half hour earlier, and we met with each committee separately, not publicly, and we, because unfortunately, some of us work 10, 12 hours a day or more, and I'm not available during the day. I'm not. Maybe by email or phone call, but when I come back to town, most businesses are.
Well, how are you gonna work with the water and sewer department if you're not
Well,
available?
Fridays, I'm off a half a day, so I can do it Friday afternoon.
All right, well, then that, as long as you know what you're.
That's your own committee.
Yeah, I only took one because of that reason.
So what you took up with.
Well, Corinne is the other, person. All right,
Bart, probably not gonna wanna conduct the first interviews before we're able to get those guidance, forms, if you will, to the subcommittees.
okay, what do you think,
And,
what's your timeframe on
so I
that?
guess and then you probably wanna give the department heads a couple of days to get into the frame of mind. So I'm thinking everyone's anxious to hit the ground running. We wanna make sure that as Mike just pointed out to me, that your initial interviews are productive.
Right.
And you're not spinning your wheels because you don't have
So in
the
other words,
tools
what
that
you're
you need.
recommending is that maybe they make a contact now saying that we're gonna be interviewing you next week sometime, what's a good time to be interviewed? This is generally what we're looking for.
Yep.
And you'll have some paperwork, some guidelines for us by
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday, you think?
I think to be honest with you, I would like a chance to just have a second look at it before we release them. So maybe on Tuesday.
All right.
Yeah.
If you can get them down to Corinne, and
For those forms, is that something you could email to the committee
Yeah,
members
we
as an attachment? And then everybody's got it right there.
Right.
And we'll be giving you a little bit of food for thought too about making sure that when you do interview, you're not, unintentionally leading, you want it to be,
Factual and
yeah, you want there to be a
objective,
consummation.
not subjective.
And Bart, another thing, just as they're making appointments, I would really recommend that you be sensitive to their time too. You're gonna want them to schedule with you when they have a block of at least a couple of hours, not when they have like 15 minutes after lunch and then they've got appointments for water or whatever. Because, this is time consuming, but you want their whole attention
Right.
too.
Well, yeah, I think we pretty much understand that. When you've got to be sensitive to the people who are still working and making a living, and that's their job, you have to.
But your department heads are, you might need to tell them up front. This could take a little while, and you want to make sure that, they're not distracted by, you also have to take into consideration if you're going to, talk to somebody about, if you're going to talk to your, water main, if you have a water main break,
Right.
you'll get preempted, so.
Sure.
And you want us all to talk to our department heads as a committee in the next
Well,
4 days?
I would like you to at least set up an appointment. I'd like you to talk to everybody by Tuesday and say, we're going to have to meet with you, and we need information.
Yeah. But the meeting might take place in a
It might
week or
take,
two.
right, it might take place the following, next Friday. If you have Friday afternoon off, make it for next Friday. It's fine, just get started. And we'll have the questionnaires, the interview forms, mailed, so you can start preparing for your review.
I guess the other thing I would just point out too is you're going to get the most helpful answers, and it's going to be most productive if the department heads feel a sense of security that you're going to be interviewing them. It's a not a critical kind of. Yeah, I guess that's a nice way of putting it.
We're
That
just
it's,
trying to gather
a safe
information.
environment. They can share thoughts and opinions. You're going to have some guided questions. You're interested in what their thoughts are. Make them feel comfortable. You'll get a far more productive interview out of it. But by the same token, you want their answers to be freely given and not not led by scuttlebutt that they're hearing that they need to be worried about keeping their job, for instance. There's no context, you're just information gathering at this stage, and you really want to know what their opinions are.
Understood. Any questions?
Yeah, if you wanted to do a meeting like either again a weekend or not during business hours, is that fine?
Oh, you mean with the committee, the whole committee?
No.
Or subcommittee? The subcommittee can meet whenever they want.
It might involve donuts and coffee.
But,
I wouldn't expect you to be talking to the employees on Saturday or Sunday,
yeah.
because they're all gonna want time and a half.
Maybe volunteer it.
Like I said, Saturdays and Sundays, you're gonna want time and a half.
But
If you're asked that question by an
Jake wanted
employee,
to sit down with us on Saturday morning.
if you're asked that, that's an excellent point, and if you're asked that question by an employee, you probably need to refer that employee to their respective employers, because no doubt that will come up, and you probably are going to have to address it. That a request from the committee is not an employment request. I'm glad you brought that up, Jim. That's an excellent point.
But if Jim and I and the chief want to meet to discuss information and stuff like that, we can set up an hour meeting during the day or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
As long as everybody's of a mind.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
No, I think Jim's point was if you involve a
Yeah.
village employee, there might be a request for overtime that is suddenly uncomfortable for everybody.
Right.
Again, it's just nice to address things up front, and there's no surprises later. So.
Jake doesn't get anyone.
The same with them.
Right. Then, I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So motion.
Second. Third. All in favor? All right, so next, Thursday, 6:30 at the firehouse.
Outstanding trace on the chair. Bart, you did an excellent job. You moved through a lot of material very effectively.
Sorry, Jen.